What's up and welcome back. Has it really been that long? I'm John Stark from MacTheMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic, and apparently it's been 28 weeks later. It's spooky season, and it's time for us to review spooky movies. And since we finally got around to doing 28 years later this year, I'm taking a look at the 28 franchise. And this one for the first time. I've never actually seen 28 weeks later until today. I had seen 28 days later, but never bothered to see the sequel because it's not directed by Danny Boyle. I always just kind of assumed it couldn't possibly be anywhere near it. It's sort of that sequelitis problem when we have a film that's low budget and the first director comes through and does a great job with it, and then the studio's like, oh, we should do this but do it bigger and better and throw more money at it and go out and get somebody who's clearly not at the same level as the other director, which, if we're being honest, even though this director does a fine job with 28 weeks later, it's still not the same thing as having Danny Boyle. And I think that's why this director's career has not flourished so much coming out of 28 weeks later, is not so many people were impressed with the sequel. I'm impressed with the talent that got rounded up for the sequel, though. That's kind of an interesting conglomerate of who's and who will be's and all that kind of stuff. We've got Jeremy Renner and Rose Byrne, Robert Carlyle, Idris Elba, Imogen Poots here. So a nice little collection of interesting individuals, certainly, that help power the film. And it's kind of a fresh story taking place later, where the military has sort of quarantined off a little area to keep the rage virus out, and looks like maybe things are getting back to normal, if that can ever be a thing again. At the beginning, you get sort of an introduction that after 28 days later, there's this, and then after this point, the infected started to die off, and then finally we're here. So it's not like The Walking Dead, where they just kind of stand around and wait forever, rot in the sun. But that doesn't mean the rage virus is gone. Does it? No. So we get like an opening sequence, and then we cut to sort of like the main storyline, where these two kids, it's weird because one of them is Imogen Poots, and I guess she was younger back then, but the other one is obviously a kid. And then they are sort of picked up along the way with their mother that they just found and been reunited with, and then their dad is at this as part of this military force, and things go awry from there. Like I said, perhaps the rage has not deranged. I don't know. The other day, I heard somebody use the term unlived instead of killed, and I was like, what? So whatever word you want to use there for the lack of rage. And chaos ensues. The audio description here was okay. It was okay. There were things that were sort of like simplistically given to me, like he attacks a guard, he attacks another guard. I mean, yeah, that's what he did, but violently, gory. I mean, it's a horror movie, So I felt like some of the things were summarized a little bit much that you would for maybe for like an action film or a film outside of a genre where it doesn't matter so much. But when you start looking at genre specific audio description, generally when you come here for a horror movie, like a scary movie or whatever, those are the kind of things you're looking to enhance are violence and gore and the scares, those kind of things. And so it's kind of cut, taking the shortcut and saying he attacked him. How? With what? Is he dead? Is he alive? Face punch? Anything? Nothing? Okay, so yeah, it was fine. It moves along pretty quickly. It's about an hour 40. It's a little under an hour 40 minutes. I think it was like an hour 38, something like that. And it certainly feels exactly like what I always thought it would be, but it was better than I thought it was going to be. Sometimes we just make sequels to things. The original director doesn't want to participate because they're like, why are we making a sequel to this? This was never intended to happen. Well, this one maybe makes sense, and I would say it's fairly competently directed, but it's clearly injected with a whole lot more money and has that big budget feel to it. It's not even something that feels as subtle as moving from Saw to Saw 2, where it's like, okay, so we got some traps, still the same house, is still kind of the same premise. They kind of kept it basically limited for the second sequel to that one. There are some other franchises like Paranormal Activity where clearly the sequel is like better funded, and it doesn't look quite so much like it was made for $10,000, which is the original budget of Paranormal Activity. Yeah, there's that. So it feels like a film that got a massive influx of cash over what the original was. But I don't know. I don't think they misused it. So it's used fairly well here. Is it a horror classic? I don't know. It depends. That depends on what comes next, because you could always just stop at 28 Days Later. But if there's something worth watching in the next film, 28 Years Later, which I'm going to watch obviously now next after I've finally seen this, then sure, because then you can complete it as a trilogy. But if it just gets progressively worse, maybe then you don't want to. It feels like a sequel that could go either way. I feel that way a little bit about Matrix Reloaded, where I like the movie, but I also, it's not the Matrix. Like the Matrix is like, oh my God. And the Matrix Reloaded was like, well, that was fine. That was good. Some of it's really cool. But it's still not the Matrix. So, and then you get to Matrix Revolutions and Matrix, whatever the last one was that we vomited onto the world. And Resurrections. The Matrix Resurrections. And then you're just like, so do I stop at 2 or 3? Where do I stop? Because it's like you don't really want or need to see the whole thing if you're marathoning the Matrix. So I feel like that's what's going to happen with 28, the franchise, because now that we're getting a sequel to 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple, I feel like we're going to the well too many times. So at some point, there's going to be that cutoff point where you're going to, we stop at number whatever. So whatever that number is for you, I validate it. But for now, I think this is fine. I'm not giving it quite the same high score that I gave 28 Days Later. Although some acting here is solid. They really did get some good actors here. I mean, I'm not going to argue about this cast. This cast is good. They just don't all have a lot to do, mostly reactionary to the things happening around them. It's not like they're given these great monologues. When you cast somebody like Idris Elba, you expect him to have this like deep monologue moment, like give me your big, profound voice. But also back at the time when he was doing this, I don't know, was he just now starting to become Luther? You know, like he wasn't quite the same name that he is today. So they weren't quite ready for him. They weren't aware. They didn't know what they had. So we'll forgive them for their insolence. 28 weeks later, part of spooky season. Check it out. And let me know what you think in the comments. I'm always interested to hear back from people like you. I'm going to give 28 weeks later a 7 out of 10 fresh. So thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. I'll see you guys on the other side.